And if your mind is feeling open and spacious, you might just breathe into that. Let it get as big as it wants. But if you're feeling stressed or have some worries or a lot of busyness in your mind, you might just take a moment to just breathe out that tension, letting go of those stories on the out breath, or just releasing the stories. And knowing that you can always pick them back up later. Just taking this moment to allow your mind to empty of the day's busyness. Something comes up and grabs your attention, and just let that go. You can always come back to it later. It's so important to take some time where we just empty out the mind and let there be some ease. And as you're letting go of stories, sometimes I talk about just letting the stories be over there or outside the door. Noticing where there may be some quiet or some little more emptiness. Or you might find that your mind feels a little more spacious. And if you can notice some quiet or spacious, just taking a moment to breathe into that, just letting it get a little bigger. If your mind is very full, just gently breathing out the stories and the tension, letting each one go. As we do this, we can let the mind be like an open sky. spacious and peaceful. And we can let any thoughts or stories that pop up just be like clouds drifting by. We can notice them, but we don't have to grab onto them. The stories change all the time. And we can just be this big open sky, watching them drift by. Letting most of your attention being on the big open sky or the emptiness, the quiet. Allow yourself to breathe into this and settle here. So you're resting in this peace. Thoughts may appear, but we don't get entangled with them. We're resting in the big, open space. The natural mind, when we let go of all the busyness, spacious, open mind is our natural refuge. Peace and ease can be found in any moment by simply releasing the stories. So welcome everybody. This evening, what I thought I'd do is just keep going through the domains and just giving a personal glimpse that you can have your own map for each of the domains. And tonight I'm going to pair two together, the psychological and the emotional, because together they speak to and speak about our mind, the condition of our mind, how our mind is, how it works, the quality of our mental status and our mental moods. So tonight we're going to put two together. And what I thought we would do is probably finish this series on the domains. We've done release, we've done essence, we've done the domains now, and then take a break for the rest of the summer. And not tonight, I mean, we'll finish the domains, but when we finish the domains, maybe just take a break until the fall. And we've been doing this class or this SID for 1.5 years now. And yeah, wow, right? It's been 1.5 years. And we started with COVID way back when COVID was hitting everybody back in like March or so, April of 2020. And that way I thought we could just take the summer off and do a little play. And I have to keep writing anyway. And then we can come back in the fall and see where we're at. But we'll go through the rest of the domains before we do that. So tonight I want to focus on psychology and the emotional domains. So the psychological domain is, before we get started, maybe let's just take a moment for anybody who hasn't grabbed a pen and some paper. If you want to take a moment to grab a pen and some paper. And then that way you can write down your own experience when we do the experiential piece. And again, we're just doing this so you have your own map. You can go work on it for the summer and bring more well-being and health to your own mind and body and heart. So the psychological domain is our cognitive domain is our rational mind. It's where we do our processing, our cognitive reasoning, those kinds of things. And our psychological mind is where we make meaning of the world. It's where we make meaning of our experience. It's the stories and beliefs that we carry. And all of those are an attempt to try to understand what's happened to us or understand how to maneuver in the world. And so the stories and beliefs we carry become a map, a shorthand for how we can kind of look at the world and go, oh, I know what that is, and then quickly respond to it. Our emotional domain is connected. It's not exactly the same. Our emotions are the expression of those meanings. So, for example, if you hate somebody, you may feel anger towards them. So emotions are the expression of the meaning. That's the difference between the psychological and the emotional domains. And, emotions are great. A lot of people like to think that, emotions come in categories of good and bad. But actually, emotions are the spice of life. They are totally what makes our life vibrant. If you've ever gone through deep grief or depression and you haven't been happy for a while, you notice how important emotions are to life. When we feel dulled or we don't feel happy, life almost can sometimes feel like it's not worth living, even, right? So emotions are the spice of our life. They're what part of what makes our life meaningful. So we want to have healthy emotions, and we also want to be fluid in our emotions. A lot of people, when they're uncomfortable in this domain and don't know how to feel comfortable with their emotions, they often live in a very stilted kind of corner of their life. Like, I'll only do the comfortable emotions. Maybe I can do happy, but I can't do exuberance. Or maybe I can be frustrated, but I don't like to be angry, you know? So, what we want is to feel healthy through the whole spectrum of our emotions so that we live fully. If we end up not living our emotions fully, we end up living a very stilted life. And then life doesn't feel so meaningful, doesn't feel as rich as it possibly could. Um, in Buddhism, they talk about the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows. And we want to be able to feel all of it. So, what I want to do tonight is walk us through some mindfulness and stop, take a moment to taste your own experience and then take a moment to write it down. Just jot yourself a note so you won't forget later. And I'm just going to walk you through some reflections on the mind and on our emotions so that you have a template of what is dominating your mind. And then you get to go and work with that and unwind it over the summer for yourself. If you do, you'll probably find that you feel a lot lighter, a lot happier, and a lot more at ease with what's going on around you. So, so we're going to do this as a mindful reflection. So you can go ahead and get comfortable again, and I will ask some questions and then give a pause for you to just write down what you notice. So, just taking a couple of breaths and just kind of letting go of that story I just told. And the first thing I want you to just notice is what comes to mind when I mention your psychology and your emotions. For instance, does it feel good and trusting, at ease? Or do you notice a contraction in your body? You get uncomfortable. I don't like to be here or think about this. And so I'm just inviting you to notice your general attitude towards your mind and your emotions. And whatever you find is okay. Conditions are such that it's like this for you today. Doesn't mean it will always be this way. And notice, for instance, when it comes to your emotions, do you feel like they're fluid and they flow for you? Or are they more stilted or repressed? And again, just noticing, oh, the whole ball of wax here, it's kind of like this for me. Again, no judgment about what you find. And then we're going to just begin with some beliefs because beliefs really color our mind. So I want to invite you to take a moment, and I'll give you some time here, to just name for yourself what are three major stories that define your life, three major events, or three major stories. We'll just take a moment to sit with that. These are events that you might come back to often in your days or in your life. So, what are the three big stories of your life? this happened. Oh, then that happened. And that. And go ahead and take a moment to just jot those down, just so that you have them. And again, not a big story, but just a line or a couple of words. And when you're ready, just come back into some mindfulness. And I'm just going to give a little reflection about these three stories. So just noticing, first of all, are they positive experiences or negative experiences? And taking the first story, what does this story say about you? What did you decide about you given this story? Could be a positive or a negative experience. And what did this event or story say about the world? And you can go ahead and take a moment to write that down. So, story number one, it said this about me, or I decided this about me because of it. And it says, it told me this about the world, or I believe this about the world because of it. And then going on to story number two, just of taking a moment to recall that story, that event that defined your life. And just the same question, given this story, what did this story say about you? Or what do you believe about you because of it? Positive or negative? And what did it tell you about the world? What did you decide about the world because of this event or story? And again, you can take a moment to write those down, just a couple of words so you'll remember. You can always write it out more later. And then coming back inside again to that third story, that third event that defined your life. And by all means, this isn't all the stories that defined your life, but we're just picking three important ones. And again, Just noticing, because of this event or this story, what did you decide about yourself? What did you come to believe? Maybe painful or joyful, depending on the event. And what did you decide about the world given this experience? And again, you can take a moment to write that out. And so now we're just going to go back inside and just do a couple of clearing breaths, just letting go of those stories for a moment. Coming back to present moment. And we're just going to shift now and take a moment to just look at emotions, your stories and beliefs about emotions. So the first one is how easy is it for you to show happiness or to feel happy? And what belief do you have here about happiness, you and happiness? I'm allowed to be happy. I'm not allowed to be happy. Happy's easy for me. It's hard for me. I'm uncomfortable. I love it. So just noticing how you are with the experience of happiness. And take a moment to just jot down a note for yourself. Happiness is like this. If it's difficult, we want to clear those blocks so you can experience more happiness. And then you can go back inside and let go of that. Just clearing again, coming back to this present moment. And noticing, how are you with sadness and crying? How easy is it for you to be sad or cry? And what beliefs do you have about sadness? You can show your sadness, you can't. Or sadness is good, sadness is bad. And then just taking a moment to jot down for yourself, oh, this is my story about sadness. And then just going back inside, being present again. And noticing what comes up when I bring up anger. How comfortable are you with your anger or other people's anger? And what stories and beliefs do you have about anger? Perhaps you're comfortable with it or it scares you. Again, taking a moment to just make a note for yourself. And we'll just do two more. So taking a moment to notice, how comfortable are you being silly and playful? Is this easy for you? Or do you feel more self-conscious and don't like that one? And again, what are the beliefs or stories that go with this? Oh, I can't be silly because I'll make a fool of myself, or I don't deserve to be playful and happy, or I love being silly. It's so easy for me. Silly's great. And taking a moment to just make a note for yourself. And then coming back into the present moment. And noticing, how easy is it for you to feel love or to show love? Can you say I love you easily? Or does that feel awkward? And again, what belief do you have about this, about feeling love or showing love? What's the story you have? And taking a moment to jot that down. This is your story about the emotion of love. And then coming back to present moment again, inside, just feeling, breathing out anything that's in the way at the moment. Just taking a moment for a reflection on any biologic influences that you may have on your psychology or your emotions. So, for instance, do you have or struggle with any mental illness? Are you ill? And that influences your moods. For instance, if you have cancer, you might have chemo brain if you're going through chemo. Perhaps you struggle with substance abuse, and substances cloud your mind and rev up your emotions, make them unstable. And also taking a moment to notice if there's any life disturbances that you have right now. You know, if you had a new baby in your life, or there's real stress at your job, or someone close to you is dying. All those life disturbances can affect our mood and our mind. And again, if you have that, just taking a moment of kindness towards yourself. Not judging your moods, not judging how the quality of your mind right now, but just a loving attitude. I'm dealing with these other stressors that perhaps other people don't have to deal with. And just taking a moment to just make a note if there's any biologic influences that are affecting your mood or your psychology. It's important to have kindness with ourselves. And then you can let go of that and come back inside again for just two more questions. The first one is taking a moment to notice how your parents were in their psychology, in their emotions. Did they have healthy minds, healthy emotions? Were they stilted or repressed or very angry? Told you don't show your feelings? Just noticing, what was it like for your parents around their psychology and their emotions? Because this is our conditioning. This is the story we got told of what we're allowed to do with our emotions and our feelings, what we have permission to feel and not feel. And again, if there were any difficulties growing up, just really having kindness for yourself around the conditioning that you grew up with. It may be hard for you to access your feelings, but perhaps you had a parent that never accessed their feelings, didn't show you how to. So just take a moment to just jot that down. Again, just a note for yourself so you can bring some awareness and kindness here. Like, oh, no wonder I do it like that. Huh, that's how my dad did it. Or that's how my mom did it. And again, you don't have to stay with the way they did it, but it's important to notice, oh, that's where I got that from. And then just as you're reflecting here on these domains, the psychological domain of stories and emotions, just noticing we use these markers for ourselves just to know where we're flowing and functioning. So do you feel healthy or gifted in this area? I'm great with emotions. I can handle mine and others. Or would you say you feel more confident in this area? I'm okay. I'm okay with it all. Not great, but I'm okay. Or do you consider yourself struggling? I really struggle with my mind and my emotions. Or perhaps mixed. I'm great at some things and I really struggle with some others. So just taking a moment just to note for yourself how you feel about your overall functioning. Just a little bell to close that. Yeah. So what we just did was just do a map for you of your mind, your terrain. Not a complete map, obviously, but a good place to start. Our stories and beliefs define the condition of our mind, right? So they define both the content. So, for instance, if you had a lot of trauma growing up, you may have a lot of worries all day. If you had a lot of oppression growing up, you might have a lot of shameful, berating kind of voices in your head telling you you're not good enough. So these stories, the major stories of our life, the events of our life, they define kind of the content of what we live with day to day. And they also define the mood that we live with. So if that content, for instance, is filled with light and bright and I loved playing outdoors and I had really healthy parents and life was great, then chances are the content of your mind and the mood of your mind reflect that. I have a lot of joy. I have a lot of joyful thoughts. I play a lot. Life feels great. If I had a more difficult upbringing or a difficult illness or, all kinds of things that can contribute, then I may find my mind is heavy, or I worry a lot, or I'm depressed a lot, or I just think I don't deserve happiness. So that's why we want to look at these stories, because they actually are influencing our day to day mind. You know, as we've seen in the past, we can have something come up in the world and we can have a reaction to it and immediately go back to 5 years old. There's a formation there, there's a memory there, right? This is the content of our mind. And if we don't clear out the content and we carry all those old stories, particularly the ones that are limiting and heavy, then we feel limited and heavy. So we want to have a map of what are the beliefs and stories in our mind so that we can begin to let go of the ones that are limiting. We can begin to release those formations, clear our mind, empty our mind of them, and come back to the natural mind of essence. Our essence is not laboring under any of these stories that are difficult. The mind of essence is open, peaceful, at ease, pure, joyful, fluid, ready to meet whatever is in front of it. So if it sees a little kid, the other day I looked out my window, for instance, and I don't know if this was like Devo or like some kind of bike club, but there were 1.5-year-olds and 2-year-olds on striders that were just coming off the trail behind my house. And they were just paddling with their feet. And they had, a bike team with them, it was like bike club. And I thought, oh, in Durango, we start them early. But just seeing those kids with their little striders and then they were rolling in circles, and my heart just came up with so much joy, right? It was just, I was free to see the joy in that. And it was interesting because I saw the joy in it, and then my phone pinged, and I looked, and it was actually a text about my dad and his caretaking. And I could immediately see that formation come up, and it kind of crowded out the joy for a second. So it was like, oh, okay, see it, release that. And then what's here naturally? Oh, it's a beautiful summer day, and there's joy, right? I'm looking at these kids. This is what's really real and beautiful right now. So that's why we want to know these stories, so we can release them and open to our natural mind, which is free and easy and fluid and playful and fun. Right? So the more you release these limiting beliefs, the more joy and peace and ease you'll have. I just want to say something also about the care of our mind. So beyond letting go of our difficulties, which is really important, there's 3 things that I want to name. One is that it's really important that you take care of your mind. So, like when I saw those kids and got the ping on my phone, it was really important that I put that down for a moment and let the joy really saturate, right? Then I could go back and deal with that issue. But it's important that we care for our mind and we do things like what makes our mind feel great. So, getting out in nature, going outdoors, playing, whatever that means to you, playing on your bike, playing outdoors, going for a walk, playing chess, whatever makes your mind feel happy and joyful is so important. Meditation and mindfulness, practices that bring soothing to you. Prayer, if you're someone who loves prayer and that really settles your mind. So doing things that nourish your mind are really important as well. Avoiding that which is stressful and does not support your mind. Finding new ways to engage with stressful things like at work. So avoidance, guarding the gate so that you don't have to overwhelm yourself where possible. And then doing some kind of light release during your day. Just like I did with that ping on the phone, I just kind of let it go. Releasing through your day when something stresses you, taking a moment to let it bubble out, breathe it out. Imagine you're in a big natural open space and giving it more space can be helpful. If you have a regular job, at the end of your day, taking time to release the day. You might do that on the train going home or during your drive. Maybe you love to listen to a certain kind of music. Um, or you could go sit in a park. Sometimes I've done that where I've had a really stressful day, and 2 blocks away from my house, I'll stop at the park, particularly in the summer, and go find a bench and sit down and just close my eyes and just let the day go. Breathe it out, let it shake out of my body, release any formations that got activated. And then when I feel at ease, then I get back and I go home. But I took care of myself first. You can take 10 minutes at a park on your way home. It can feel awesome. So I hope that this map makes sense to you. Particularly the 3 stories that defined our life. Oftentimes, they have a kind of umbrella way of defining how we move in the world. And so if you had like a lot of pain in your childhood and you walk around kind of despondent or not trusting the world, know that these are stories that can be released. If you have a lot of fear, know that that can be released. You don't have to live where you've been so far if it's been unpleasant. If it's been pleasant, awesome. But if there are parts that are unpleasant, all of these beliefs that are laid out before you on this paper, all of them can be released. And then you can come home to your natural mind. And I can tell you, the more I do it, the lighter I feel, the more joyful I feel, the more satisfied with life. I feel like I'm coming home to myself more and more all the time. And then it helps me in the difficult times, like what I'm doing right now with my dad in his care. I feel like I have a resource, I have a resilience to be able to deal with this and not succumb to pressure, too much overwhelm. So I hope that this is helpful for you and that your own map sets you free. Yeah. So let's take a moment just for a mindful moment, just so we share what we're doing here with the world. So you can close your eyes or look softly at the floor. May the effort we're making here, the practices we do, may they free our own mind, heart, and body so that we become joyful and at ease and fully alive, fully embracing our emotions, our body, our mind, what it means to live fully. And may it ripple out beyond us to those we touch with our presence, and so that all beings may come to know this work and release their own pain so that they too can be free and joyful and live the life they're meant to live. So thank you for your attention, and we'll keep cooking on the rest of the domains. We've done 3 so far, so we have 4 more left. And yeah, I hope this is helpful to you and that you have a sweet week. So take care, everybody.